Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm playing Drawback chess, where each player is assigned a random drawback, like Lame Duck, where you can't move your king, or True Gentleman, where you can never capture a queen. My goal is to win 3 games, and just like last time, we are going to come over here and switch it from give me whatever to I prefer hard drawbacks. Let's get started with game number 1. Alright, game number 1, we get the black pieces and our drawback is 3 check. Oh, literally a chess variant. If you are checked 3 times, you lose. So I don't think this changes all that much, especially considering our opponent seems to be playing relatively passively. I mean, no hate to anybody that plays what I suppose is the setup for the Nimzo Larsen, but I'm not particularly intimidated by it, and I think it gives us a lot of attacking opportunities. Okay, now there's bishop to b5, which could give check, and I'm just taking this into account in case it accidentally happens. So I'm being really careful with my move order to make sure that that kind of thing doesn't even make its way onto the board. Now, the reason that I mentioned an attack, besides the fact that that's usually my go-to plan in pretty much any given situation, is because I really don't want to go into an endgame. Not to mention the opponent's setup is a little bit strange. You kind of have this wall of pawns stopping the long diagonal bishop and the knight in front of the c pawn, so there's no center break. It's a little bit of an unorthodox setup. I'm curious if that has to do with their drawback. Yeah, knight to a4, there's something funny going on here. Let's go ahead and continue to develop. Obviously, we've done basically a London system setup with the black pieces. And going back to my previous point, the reason that I don't want to enter into an endgame is because even if you play an endgame correctly, usually that involves getting checked at least a couple of times here and there, even if you're completely winning. Even if there's no checkmating threat and you are completely dominating over the board, just by the inherent sort of open nature of an endgame, there's a lot of chances to get checked, even if your opponent doesn't know that's what they're looking for. So I'd like to, for the most part, keep all of the pieces on the board. You can see we haven't traded anything off yet. We get knight to f3. I could play this, but then I blunder the pawn. And I really don't want to trade off my bishop because that's going to be an attacking piece. So this is surprisingly annoying. I guess I could just play a5 and try to undermine the knight. I'm sure we'll be met with like a3 or c3 or something of that sort. Yeah, we're met with a3. Should I capture? They would take back. I take, the bishop recaptures. And it's really not half bad. But again, it's not all that conducive to a kingside attack. I'm going to make a little bit of a waiting move. This knight is not in the best position ever. I do want it on d7 eventually. They meet our waiting move with another waiting move. You know what? Fair play to the opponent. How about this? I'll offer you a little truce. I'll give you a knight. You give me your active knight. I'll give you my active knight. They don't go for it. They go bishop d3 instead, continuing their development. In which case, okay, we'll accept the trade and we'll just go b6. I mean, at some point, you just have to have enough with those active pieces. Not to mention, I'm down to a minute 19 now. So we'll kind of boot that knight. If they want to trade it off, even better. That's totally fine with me. So we get an active knight for a undeveloped knight, but no, they take on e4, which seems to blunder the fork. Now, again, we are sort of trending towards a endgame of some kind. We get bishop c4 and we pick up that knight. Nice. Now there is a relatively concrete idea for a kingside attack. I don't know if the opponent will see that idea, but I don't really want to wait around and find out. So instead, oh, I've now blundered this. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and take on b4. Should they play pawn to d5, I'm playing e5 and trying to close up that position so that this attack never bears any fruit. Yeah, f4, they're gonna follow through on that as best as they can. We'll play knight d7, try to now triple down on the defense of this pawn. And if we can trade everything off, again, we've now entered an endgame, which is exactly what I was trying to avoid, but it is still manageable. Actually, you know what? No, we're taking with the knight. We're going to target the bishop and threaten knight to f3, which would pick up the rook. Bishop to e2 is the only defense here. Oh, it's not. Rook to g3, quote unquote, blunders the bishop, but it's more of an, oh no, my bishop, so that they can mate me on g7, which is a very nice find by the opponent. Okay, let's go rook to c8 and create an actual threat against the bishop. Right, we get pawn to f4. Should I capture? Surely they would take back. I mean, I'm still up my piece. I just have to be careful of the checks. Okay, I'm going to play this, and even though I'm pretty confident they're going to deliver a spite check on a8, which they do, now I only have 2 checks left. I don't think there's any reason for them to continue to sacrifice pieces. Yeah, king to f2, we'll go ahead and take with a check, forcing the king up, and then bishop to e4 is mate, but this is a king capture variant, so we have to wait for them to make one more move. They deliver one last spite check just to see, but we do capture the king in time and win game number 1. Very, very close call. Let's go ahead and pop up the info board. All right, you won, barely. You took your opponent's king. Your opponent's drawback was unrequited love. Your king can't move away from your queen and can't move if you don't have one. Your queen can't move towards your king. Okay, I'm extremely confused why I have an easy drawback. Hello, am I losing my mind? Wait a minute. Okay, let's go back to the lobby for a second because this is not what we wanted. What? You guys can even see if I switch back to the full screen, you can see I prefer hard drawbacks is enabled, but I guess we just weren't given one. Or the opponent is just that much stronger than us, which is kind of insane. But okay, with that, we do win game number 1. Let's go to move on to game number 2. All right, game number 2, we're paired against, I don't remember 2012, conspiracy theory, and we get the black pieces. Our drawback is bottled lightning. If you can move your king, you must. Whoa. So, whoa, that's actually super hard. Well, I guess I did complain last time that I didn't get a hard drawback, so here we are. We're waiting for the opponent to move, but I'm thinking, my first thought was, what if I like create a path for the king to sort of trap itself, and then I sort of bottle the king back up? But then I realized that that's impossible, because if I can continue to move the king, then I must continue to move the king. So as far as I can tell, I don't get to move any of these pieces, at least not until the opponent has like a single king on the board. So yeah, for all purposes, I basically can't move these pieces. Okay, the opponent still hasn't moved. Maybe they have a pretty tough drawback as well. Oh, that's a shame. The game was aborted. Look at this. That would have been such a good game to win. Oh, goodness. And they also had unrequited love. They might have just not understood what on earth their drawback meant. But okay, with that, nothing happens in game number 2. Let's go to move on to game number 3. Oh, we get paired with the same guy. We get the black pieces again, but this time our drawback is Prince Charming. If your queen is attacked, you must move a knight if possible. If your queen, what? If your queen is attacked, you must move a knight if possible. So get rid of your knights? Is that what that translates to? Get your knights off the board ASAP? How do we go about that? Let's do this. C6 looking for D5. We can trade off the knights, or at least one of the knights relatively quickly. And then we'll go knight C6 and try to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, I'm gonna go D4 and try to press the issue. Nice, we do get one of them traded off. And look who's coming right behind. Ooh, D3. Actually, no, I'm gonna go G6, because if I go knight to F6, almost guaranteed they're just gonna move the bishop back to keep it on the long diagonal. Yeah, they do it unprompted. So I'm gonna go bishop G7 instead, looking for knight to E5, and then I can just trade that off as well. Nice, we get that second knight trade, and yeah, that's it. That's pretty much it for our drawback. No more drawbacks to be concerned about. I think the opponent, oh, I thought for a second the opponent didn't expect us to take. Okay, we're now targeting the rook, and obviously I'm gonna go for a kingside attack. I mean, clear as day that is a fantastic plan. Queen to B3, I like to defend my pawns with my very king. And now we're just looking for H5, H4. I always love to see this sort of fianchetto right in front of the king, especially when it's not backed up by anything else like a stone wall structure or anything like that. You can see they're not passive in development, but they're not really like actively hunting anything down. So they've sort of just left us this like little crumb. It's like a little cookie crumb that I see, and I'm like, wait a minute, I like cookie crumbs. We get pawn to A4. Now they are starting their attack. Valid retaliation. We get bishop to A5. Be frank, I'm kind of tempted to just take. Should they take? I take with check. They have to take back. You're telling me there's not mate there somewhere? I want to find out. I want to find out. We're taking on G3. Oh, they take back. Darn it, we're not finding out today. There's also bishop to H6. Should they take bishop to E3? You've got these two skewers going through the position. Not literal like chess tactical skewers, just like metaphorical skewers. The king would move out of the way. But I don't know what the follow-up is there. Is it? But I really don't want to concede either. That's so lame. Okay, we're gonna concede. It's not, you know, flashy or anything, but the bishop obstructs their very own pawn from pushing forward. Pawn to C5 doesn't actually make progress in the position. I mean, I'm guessing they're looking for that pawn on F7, but we're gonna kind of just ignore that. If they want to engage on the king's side, that's kind of exactly what we want to happen. So we're gonna allow them to take on F7 if that's what they're looking for. And then we have bishop to E3 with check. The king moves out of the way. We would even have a tempo on the queen to open up that H file. There's just a lot of good ideas there. Ooh, the king moves out of the way ahead of time. I'm still gonna place the bishop on E3. I still think it belongs there. Interesting though that they dodged that check. Isn't that really interesting? We get queen to C4. I'm not really sure what that's preparing, but we're gonna play bishop to E6, boot the queen, force her to go back. C2 seems to be the only available square. Well, B4 as well. Ooh, bishop to G4 is free. Why are you? Hold on, something's happening here. There's weird moves happening. King to H1 was weird. Queen to C4 is weird. Bishop G4 is possibly the strangest of them all. I can't take here because then they would just take. Well, actually, I would still win. Oh no, I wouldn't win the piece because there's a recapture. Okay, I'm just gonna grab the free bishop. There's no reason to overthink this. I even thought about giving check because I kind of feel like they might have the 3 check drawback now, but we get queen takes F7, bishop back to E6. I mean, obviously it belongs on this long diagonal because the king has nowhere to go. They're giving me free stuff. I don't know why they're giving me free stuff. We're gonna start with check though. We're gonna start with check and then we'll take the queen, or we'll take the queen that way. That works too. Yeah, there's stuff happening here. Okay, and then there's this nice little mating sequence where we go rook to H8 and then queen to H3, and that is checkmate. Okay, they definitely don't have Prince Charming. Bishop to C7. Why don't you allow me to do the wonderful mate? They give me the king instead. I'm very curious what their drawback was, but with that we win game number 2. Let's go ahead and pop up the info board. All right, you won. No, it happened again. Okay, I'm starting to think either one of two things is happening. Either the opponent is much stronger than we are, so we are not worthy of a harder drawback than theirs, or there's just not enough people online right now, so I'm getting auto-paired anyways. You took your opponent's king, your opponent's drawback was truant, you can't move the same piece twice in a row. Yeah, I can see why that would be actually pretty bad if you're getting your king attacked, especially if you're getting sacked with checks and stuff. So yeah, they didn't have a choice but to move that bishop, or rather move something other than the king. Anyways, with that, we win game number 2. This is coming out to be a rather interesting episode. Let's go to move on to game number 3. Before we move on, if you want to improve your openings, I recommend checking out the sponsor of this video, chessreps.com, which offers easy step-by-step opening lessons. Drill your opening to climb to the top of the leaderboard, or do puzzles that come from real games. Like this puzzle where I can click back to see how we got to this Jobava London position, before delivering this nasty fork. Puzzles are completely free, so you can keep doing puzzles to increase your opening elo and then take that practice into a real game, like I did to crush my opponent with the Jobava London. If you want to support the channel and become an opening menace, check out chessreps.com. Now, back to the video. Game number 3, we do get the white pieces. Our drawback is tower defense. You can't move your rooks. If you lose all your rooks, you lose. Oh my goodness, you've got to be kidding me. Tower defense, you can't move your rooks. That's so bad. And if you lose both of your rooks, you lose. Just to be clear, that's in addition to losing the king. That doesn't cancel out that if you get mated or your king captured or anything like that, you would also lose. So now we have 3 different pieces that we have to defend. This is definitely one of the harder drawbacks, and we're not even allowed to move 2 of them. So again, keep as many pieces on the board as possible, because now this is the army that we have to work with. And also try to be as inconspicuous about wanting to keep pieces on the board as possible. So for example, even this trade is not ideal, but I don't think the opponent would go for that. Yeah, we do get bishop b7. Just in case they do, I'm going to play e3, so I have the queen recapture. But it's unlikely, because most people that fianchetto understand that that bishop is very strong on the long diagonal and is usually more valuable than a knight that is just aimed at the center. We get pawn to c5, targeting the middle of the board. We'll go bishop d3, and I suppose we'll have to get some sort of attack going in the near future, because if I play like knight d2 and then queen e2 and then I just end up waiting around, the opponent is going to understand that there's a reason that I'm not castling. Unfortunately, in this case, it's because I can't. Or wait, maybe I can castle. It says you can't move your rooks, but castling feels kind of like a king move, doesn't it? This just happens to be a byproduct of me moving my king. Let's give it a try. We can castle. Nice. Okay, never mind. That is extremely valuable information because it looks really, really normal. It also gets the rook off the long diagonal, which is also nice. Okay, so this looks super standard, to be honest. Now we have knight d2. You know, depending on where they place this pawn, nice, we get pawn to d5. That means we also have knight to e5. This is, you know, working out to be quite a nice little development. We haven't traded a single piece, not even a pawn is off the board yet. We do get bishop to d6. It was about time the opponents start challenging our position. Okay, knight to e5, bishop g3, bishop g5 are the main options here. If I play bishop g3, there is this trade, but it doesn't actually open up a file. Not that I could use that rook anyways. Bishop to g5 pins the knight, but it's a little superfluous because the queen can just move out of the way. And even though my capturing doubles these pawns, it also opens up a file against my king, and the opponent could easily long castle. That is not how long castle works. Could easily long castle and then launch a rather scary kingside attack. So I think the natural choice here is knight to e5. Of course, the biggest problem with this is that it works directly against our drawback. Supposing the opponent starts to trade, I will very quickly run down to the few last pieces that I'm literally not allowed to move. So even though trades are not ideal, I'd rather put up the front and try to follow through on it than play too passively. Nice, we get short castle. This is actually very good. We'll go ahead and triple down the defense on the knight on e5. We do get bishop takes. I'm going to take with a pawn because again, I don't really want any trades. I can even look for knight to g5 ideas targeting h7. Depends on where this knight lands. If it lands on d7 looking for the pawn, that pawn is all theirs 100%. I was going to say if it lands on e4, then we'd have to make a little battery and try to boot it off that square. We're going to play knight to g5. We're just looking to open up the kingside position. Not to mention it has not been made clear what on earth their drawback could even possibly be. So we have to keep our eyes peeled for any weird moves. Pawn to h6. So far, all of these moves are perfectly natural. We could even play queen to h5. They can't really take because there's queen h7. Let's do that. Let's give it a try. Queen to h5. I mean, here's the thing. If this attack doesn't land and we end up having to play positional chess, we don't have a shot at all of winning this because we're going to be left left with these pieces. And again, I can't even move my rook, so we get knight to e5. We'll go ahead and just drop the bishop back. I think that is a sound idea. And now we have to keep our eyes peeled for any possible way breaking through this structure. Not to mention the opponent is now down to 48 seconds, 47, 46. We get knight to f6. Targets the queen, also loosens that knight on e5. We'll go ahead and move queen to h3. Should the pawn take, I take with the bishop. That is a fair trade, and we're looking to take the knight that defends h7, but no, they just move the knight back to g6. Okay, we're taking on g6. They have to take back, knight takes e6. Nice. We've got this little fork lined up against the opponent. My fear is that they're going to go for the queen trade. Okay, they don't, which means I can take, and we've sort of made something of the attack, but again, I can't even move my rooks, so I'm not totally sure how to follow up on this. I guess queen g3 looking for this doesn't work because of knight to h5 with the fork. This is a tough spot to be in. Maybe I shouldn't have traded that off more than I think about it. All right, we'll make a little waiting move. Opponent is now down to 42 seconds. We're playing 3-2, so they get 2 seconds back for every move that they make. So basically my best shot here is to somehow complicate the position. Yeah, queen to e4 looks to take. We'll play bishop to e5. If they take, I have no choice but to sort of lean into that. Knight to d5, check. King to h7. Yeah, I don't think I have much of a choice, do I? I guess I could play this and then just move the king out of the way. If I can just get the opponent under like 10 seconds, I think I can flag them. Knight to f4. Yeah, they're doing a great job of following up on this attack, and the problem is the queen is the only defending piece. We'll go like this. Oh, wait a minute. There's sort of a counter-attacking idea here. They're almost under 20. Ooh, knight sacrifice. Interesting. I wonder what could have triggered that move. Oh, goodness, and I can't even take? Well, that was actually sound. Yeah, that's a very nice find. Queen goes back. What is happening? This is very confusing. For some reason, they didn't take. I'm going to make a waiting move and then pre-move the recapture. Again, I can't move my rooks, and if I lose both of them, I lose the game. Oh, man, that's bad. Okay. Ooh, that's really bad, actually. Oh, we'll block. Queen goes back. Let's target the queen again. King over. If they take my rook, I am toast. Oh, they don't. Okay, we'll move back again. They are under 20 seconds, but this is such a comfortable win that I don't think we have anything going for us here. Yeah, they take the rook. Really no choice but to block. They're going to take the bishop as well. I still can't move my rook. I'm bound to lose the other one, and this game is just about over. Yeah, good game. We didn't manage to pull away with that one. I think I simplified too quickly, trying to capitalize on that knight e6 tactic, but let's go ahead and pop up the info board. All right, with that, we do lose game number 3. Your opponent's drawback was, ooh, shiny. If you can capture a piece in a way that doesn't expose your capturing piece to recapture, you must. That is a tough one to guess. It also explains why they didn't go for any trades at the beginning, which kind of worked in our favor for a little bit, but then I just oversimplified the position, looking for knight takes e6 when my leftover pieces, which was what I was talking about the whole time, weren't going to be enough to win that game. All right, with that, we have 2 victories under our belt, 1 loss. Let's go to move on to game number 4. All right, game number 4, same opponent. Our drawback is lethal attraction. You can't make moves that place the moving piece further away from your opponent's king than it started. Possibly the best quote-unquote drawback that I can possibly get. Considering that's usually my general MO anyways, is sort of attracting my pieces towards the enemy king. I can't really think of a better drawback for me to get. So in the ideal world, the opponent sort of overcommits the king right away. We do get checked. We'll play pawn to c3 to block it, and we get bishop back to e7. Nice. In the perfect world, they castle right now. Nice, they do, and that means we are 100% ready to just launch everything that we have at the enemy king. Yeah, h4, let's just go for it. Again, I haven't seen where this pawn is placed yet. I believe they placed it on d5 in the last game, so knight to e5 should still be a possibility, but we get knight to d5 instead, and that's why we don't overcommit the pieces too early. We get knight to d5. What about knight g5? Oh, I guess that weakens the center a little bit too much. Okay, we'll go bishop to g5 instead, and we're looking for this trade to open up the rook. Ooh, pawn to f5 is really amusing, trying to brute force block the light squared bishop. Let's go ahead and trade, and then go knight to g5. Again, this attack basically has to work, or else lethal attraction is going to be very, very difficult to play with. So we're sort of thinking here like g4, basically anything that puts more pressure on the opponent's position. If we take back this way, e5 is quite annoying. But if we take back this way, knight b4. Let's go here. Let's go here for the meantime. And then I suppose I can castle out of the way if this gets a little out of hand. Ooh, knight to f4 instead. Ooh, that is a nice find by the opponent. You know what though? I think I'm going to lean into it. I'm going to play knight to f3. If the opponent takes, I'm playing king to f1, and I'm playing on that open g file. Yeah, we'll slide the king over. Knight does go back. Rook to g1. I don't know if I've completely lost my mind at this point, but I'm just trying to really commit this attack and make sure that something becomes of it. We'll target the knight. If they trade, we just take back. Ooh, knight to h5. Okay. Rook to e1. Just building up the pressure. We already learned from the last game that the opponent is a little bit susceptible to time trouble. That seems to just drop e6, but I can only take it with my rook, and then the rook has to pretty much stay there. Let's go for it. Rook takes. Yeah, queen shuffles out of the way. Let's go d5, and we're gonna try to make this center a little bit more concrete. Yeah, knight to e5, we'll go ahead and take, and then just c4, closes everything up. Right, pawn to h6 looks to boot the knight, and we probably just have to allow that. So let's go here. No, let's not uproot the rook too early. Also, we're down to 30 seconds. But if the opponent takes, ooh, they sack. Interesting. That's a very interesting choice, actually. Okay, now we'll go here. Very, very strange position. There's this idea and this idea. I just had to move the rook first because they can take the knight, and then the rook drops right after. Okay, pawn to e4. Good find by the opponent. It feels like there's some sort of mating idea here where we go bishop c4 and sack the queen, but I don't see it, so I'm not going to risk it. Ooh, knight to f4 is nice. Okay, bishop to c4. They pretty much have to take. We'll take back with check, and I still think we're doing quite well there. They can't really take the knight because there's rook to h1 ideas with mate, so somehow we're actually doing quite well here. And as you can see, obviously we're super low on time as well, but the opponent is slowly getting even with us on time. Oh, and we win. Okay, even better. Sweet. All right, let's go ahead and pop up the info board. All right, you won. Your opponent lost due to a drawback. Your opponent's drawback was always check. It might be mate. If you are checked, you lose. Wow, the opponent had a harder drawback than us again. I'm starting to think this button doesn't work. Obviously, that's jokes. I'm pretty sure there's just not that many people online at the moment. But with that, we do win 3 games. We walk away with a 1 loss and 1 abort, which honestly would have been a fun one to play. But overall, I'm pretty happy with this run. If you guys did enjoy this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Let me know down below what your favorite drawback to play with is. I think Lethal Attraction is probably my favorite to play with, even though this game was rather close. And in the past, I've been almost choked out by this drawback. It kind of forces me to play into one of my favorite ways to approach the game. Let me know down below, and I will see you guys in the next one.